Were there some proposals that you just couldn't score because there wasn't enough detail?
Yeah, and so a couple of things. One is that both campaigns have seemed to agree to not tax tips in the service industry. That would be, you could be narrowly defined in some way. But if taken seriously, a lot of payroll could be reclassified as tips. Lots of bonuses could be as tips. I mean, does a tip literally have to come directly as a payment from a customer? Could it be also through an employer? How does that get classified? Like if you leave a tip on a credit card, technically, the customer is actually giving a tip to the employer who then passes it on. So why isn't a bonus then a tip? I mean, there's so much that could be reclassified. Honestly, I know economists really aren't taking that one very seriously because in a really narrow sense, that could maybe cost 100 some billion over 10 years. But if businesses in workers got smart, and it would be to their mutual benefit to get smart on that, that they could reclassify a lot of payrolls as tips. And so that would actually then cost tons of money over 10 years. Another thing is on trade. I mean, it was really hard to understand what Trump is basically saying on some of the tariffs and so forth. So you could take them somewhat at face value. But then you have to start to say, okay, yes, on one hand, if no other country responds to it, and then there's also some deeper discussion, what's called Pillar Two, and how that interacts with that. It is that are still some issues are unresolved. Then the trade policy could create a couple $1 trillion in revenue over, 10 years. It could also lead to loss in revenue if other countries respond, and especially on a dynamic basis. And so that's the one we would need a lot more details and then a lot more understanding of things like Pillar Two and so forth to really go into it in a lot more detail.